All right, good. It's good to be back after an extended summer vacation, summer break. Hope you all had a good summer. It's now towards the end of September, so as usually happens, my planned breaks extend to be 2 to 3 times as long as I thought they would be. But here we are back, and I thought that I would talk about a concert that I went to a few weeks ago that really sparked some connections around why I listen to music, why I listen to Messiaen, why I am working through the study of Messiaen that I am doing in some of those other videos, and kind of how it all ties together with my interest in meditation and in sort of self-scrutiny. So the concert was by the Chamber Orchestra of Pittsburgh. I live in Pittsburgh, so Chamber Orchestra therefrom, and they performed Messiaen's piece Des Canyons aux Étoiles, from the canyon to the stars, which is his musical evocation of a trip he took out west, like the Red Rock, Badlands, the canyons. And it was a fantastic concert. The performance was really sharp and crisp. The colors were ever present in the performance. It was in a modest-sized performance hall. Maybe there were a couple hundred people in the audience. But all, like me, excited to hear the piece. These tickets went on sale in January, February. The piece had been originally planned for 2020 and deferred. This is their first full season since the pandemic. So there was some energy associated with that. Fantastic pianist, soloist. They brought in some good key players on the percussion, French horn. So the piece has a large French horn part in it, including a magnificent French horn solo called the Interstellar Call. And so if you don't know the piece, go listen to it. It's a 90-minute piece. Keep your ear open for the French horn solo. There's 3 or maybe 4 solo piano interludes. The piano part throughout, like most of Messiaen's music, is central and difficult. But there was just this extraordinary... Look, I'm not Messiaen in terms of synesthesia, but it really felt like the whole hall was suffused with this rose gold aura with these other punctuation colors. And that's my filter. I think rose gold is a color that I associate with this sort of ephemeral substance around us that is not our aura, but our detritus, our poetic detritus as we move through the process of being human. We exude this stuff, and when I really think about it, and when I really sort of open up to it, that appears to me as a rose gold wash. Not so much a halo, not an aura, but just a wash that fills the room. One of my pieces for piano and electronics called Canticle, the cover photo for that picture is a snapshot I took waiting for the bus one morning, and the sunrise was exactly this rose gold color. I'll link to that piece in the show notes. One of the so Messiaen always writes these very evocative texts, right? His pieces have titles that are important and evocative, and then he'll give blurbs. And in a lot of the pieces, those blurbs are specifically liturgical. I'm working through the Van Regard right now, which is a set for solo piano. Each piece has almost a exposition on a theological, liturgical idea that's then represented in the music. That's a topic for another video, I think, is the importance of a title. And I've definitely changed over time on this. A lot of my titles, until quite recently, are things that are maybe the date that they were written on. So like 3 pieces for piano, February 2020, something like that. But I've also had pieces where the title is deliberately evocative. An early piano piece I called "Look, a Blue One Floats By." And I'm working on a piano sonata right now, and I very much want the titles to be Messiaen-like in the sense, not that they're liturgical, but that they position the music in a particular way. Not a program. Although I have nothing against program music, and maybe I'm going to start writing music with a script. I don't know. But the title gives a position for the music. And that position could be abstract and distant, or it could be romantic and evocative, or it could be colorful and provocative. So, for example, first movement of this piano sonata is likely going to be called something like "On Considering the North American Glaciation Around Ithaca, New York." And I'll leave it at that. We'll come back to it tomorrow or later in the week. In fact, I'll make a note. Write note to self on video topic, the importance of titles. Very good. For one of the movements, Messiaen describes a moment when he was out west, out in the canyons. He describes the color of the rock, and then he talks about seeing a bird fly through the canyon. Let me see if I can. There we go. Fly through the canyon. And he describes the color of the bird, this little speck of color against the searing blue of the sky and the deep hues of the rock. And he describes it as... Thank you, Siri. I didn't ask for anything. Did I? Did I ask Siri for something? I don't think so. He describes this combination of the rock and the bird and the sky as stained glass. And boy, is it ever. Then the music then is a realization of those colors and that shape and that gesture. It just was so beautiful. So, when I was a young person, meaning a college student, so upwards of 30 years ago now. Yeah, 30 years some. Isn't that amazing? Is that right? I started college in 1985. And that is 95, 2005. This is nearly 30 years ago. Anyway, when I was a college student, I had an image of myself as the kind of person that would sit on an evening cross-legged in my dorm room, maybe with the window open, perhaps with some incense burning. But a general cleansing of the space, fresh air, clean, good posture. And that I would sit and I would listen to Messiaen or Stockhausen. Right? But those were the two sort of icons that I had in mind. Sit and listen to Gesang du Jünglinge or the Vision de l'Amen, which was at the time the Messiaen piece that I was preoccupied with, the big 2-piano piece. And the reality is that although I listened to those pieces, I didn't listen to them in that context. Because I didn't have the stability to listen to them in that context. I was a young person at college. I went out to parties. I stayed up late, talking to friends, doing everything except the thing that I thought was iconically what I wanted to be doing. Some part of me wanted to be doing this, but it was a part that really has taken 30 years since then to get to. The recognition I have now is that the stability of mind and the stability of posture to do what I thought I wanted to do then was well beyond my 19-year-old capability. The instinct was there, the calling was there, but the context wasn't there. I wasn't stable enough myself. And to be fair to my younger, unstable self, I wasn't surrounded by Zen monks or Tibetan Buddhists who could instruct me on the stability of the mind. That has been a long and arduous process. So now here I am, 54 years old, and capable of experiencing this music in the way that my much younger self wanted to. And it feels like a direct connection back. Because of the consideration of the nature of self as this impermanent, ever-changing flow of experience. There's a very real way that what I'm doing now has a direct feedback loop to my younger self. And I'm not saying that I can change the past. That isn't the objective here. But there's a dialogue between the conditions and positions that I held as myself when I was 19 and the conditions and positions that I hold as myself now when I'm 54. And this music is a thread between that. It's a way of connecting the totality of my life. And I think that's absolutely built into certainly how Messiaen thought about music. And when he points to his spiritual and liturgical experiences, it's not inappropriate for me to be it's part of it. It's not limited to, it's not solely an attribute of Messiaen's music, but I do feel that Messiaen's music is a particular use case for identifying and zeroing in on that connection to the past self. I'm probably going to call this video Music, Messiaen, and Time Travel because I want it to be an interesting title. I'm not talking about moving through space and time and perceiving. I'm talking about realizing that there's a connected flow. And really, not just intellectually understanding that, but actually experiencing it. And I think one of the gifts of music is that it helps us, especially with music that we either knew very well or loved, or in this case, aspired to do. The aspiration that I had as a 19-year-old connects to my experience today. The same way that when I listen to Careless Whisper with George Michael, a song that I adored and still do, and always have, there's a point where I can listen to it and not be quite sure whether I'm 17 or 22 or 38, 54, or extended, why stop there, 80. So there are a couple of other things that's going on right now that sort of fit into that. I've been taking French lessons, and I took French in high school. I studied French in college. So there must have been a point where I was relatively fluent, to the point where I took a year abroad in college, and I went to London, and I dissipated. I had a great time, and I learned a lot. Didn't learn a lot about music. I didn't learn any French. At Bates, the French professor suggested that I go to the French language course in Strasbourg. And I didn't really consider it at the time, but now I really wish I had. And so now when I'm studying French, I am more effective learning when I think of it as being an act that I'm doing in partnership with the younger self who made what I think now might have been a poor choice. But is it a poor choice? Is there such a thing? Yeah, this might have been a poor choice. It's a choice that part of me regrets. It's also a choice that at the time was exactly what I wanted to do. And I am who I am because I made that made that choice. It was a heck of a year with a lot of consequences following on. So think of that, studying French as kind of a recognition of previous self, a dialogue with previous self. Perhaps a dialogue with my previous self could be in French, as sort of an automatic writing exercise. But here's the other thing is, my piano teacher at Bates, absolutely wonderful woman, musician, was French. And I don't regret not going to Strasbourg, and I don't regret going to London and experiencing the hedonic bohemian life for a while. But I do wonder what, it never even occurred to me to sit down in my weekly piano lessons and ask if we could speak in French. It just never occurred to me. You know, there are lots of things I've done that are, stupid, or things that I regret. Lots of things I've done that were, in retrospect, very smart and very authentic. But that one baffles me. And so part of this modern day contemporary action being a reflection and an interaction with past self. This is one where I'm trying to redo that one, if you can think of it that way. And of course, Messiaen wrote in French, and all his writing is in French. So I want to be able to listen to his interviews in French, read his interviews in French. So anyway, there you go. Let's see how we do with these videos. I really want to just pass things out, not get so worked up on the Messiaen analysis needing to be formal and long and figured out. And maybe I just want to do more videos talking more about Messiaen and more about meditation and more about music, more about some other composers. But let me know what you think. If you've watched a bunch of these videos and you see me kind of careening about different topics, which ones do you think are particularly interesting? If you have any questions. And with that, keep your wits about you.